while I was here with my girlfriend, we wanted to go see some of the sights of Medellin, and I met this awesome fellow right here. His name's Juan Pablo Po-
Porras.
Porres. Juan Pablo Porres,
Porras.
and he's a dual citizen. You grew up in Venezuela.
Yes, I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. My mom was born here in Colombia, so I got the double nationality. I'm Colombian and Venezuelan as well.
Okay, and you got out of Venezuela before things got really bad, right?
But yeah, I got out of Venezuela. It was bad already when I was there, but I got out of there before it got really, really, really bad because every day it getting worse and worse. That country, the inflation rate every day, the money is the worthless money in the world. People make if you are lucky to have a job in Venezuela because another thing is that you can't find over there. So there's a lot of unemployment. So if you have a job, you make as a low salary $3 a month.
A month.
A month. So
How does anybody eat or live?
I don't know. So that's what a lot of people over there they are leaving the country because literally people dying, they're starving to death. Last year, 40,000 children died of starvation. That's a fact.
Well, what?
So,
Okay, so what? Once upon a time, not too long ago, Venezuela was the richest and most affluent country in South America.
and really touristic.
Right, the envy
Yeah.
of South America and many other countries in the
Yes.
world. What happened?
What happened was like back in the day, Venezuela used to be used to be democracy country, and
Like
back in
America.
yeah, and in 1999, it turns into a socialist country when President Hugo Chavez got elected as a president. So since then, the president started going down, and then when
And I was here with my girlfriend. We wanted to go see some of the sights of Medellin.
as well.
Okay, and you got out of Venezuela before things got really bad, right?
But yeah, I got out of Venezuela. It was bad already when I was there, but I got out of there before it got really, really, really bad because every day it getting worse and worse. That country, the inflation rate every day, the money is the worst money in the world. People make if you are lucky to have a job in Venezuela because another thing is that you can't find a job over there. So there's a lot of unemployment. So if you have a job, you make as a low salary $3 a month.
A month.
A month. So
How does anybody eat or live?
I don't know. So that's what a lot of people over there they are leaving the country because literally people are dying, they're starving to death. Last year, 40,000 children died of starvation. That's a fact.
Well, what?
So,
Okay, so what? Once upon a time, not too long ago, Venezuela was the richest and most affluent country in South America.
and really touristic.
Right, the envy
Yeah.
of South America and many other countries in the
Yes.
world. What happened?
What happened like back in the day, Venezuela used to be used to be democracy country, and
Like
back in
America.
yeah, and in 1999, it turns into a socialist country when President Hugo Chavez got elected as a president. So since then, the president started going down, and then when Chavez died, which was in 2012, 2013, around that. Maduro got in the press as a president, and the country went like this, straight to the bottom.
So he's also a socialist.
He's also a socialist dictator,
Mhm.
but
So
it's a dictator.
right, it's a
And he
dictatorship. Yeah.
says that his country is democracy, that's human rights, but it's full of lies. You can believe he said that Venezuela it's okay when in reality it's not okay.
Which that is very typical of any socialist, communist regime. Um, they always want to try to sell you this lie about how socialism is the best thing that could ever happen to a country, that everybody's going to be equal and people are going to prosper. That's never true. Hugo Chavez, Nicolas Maduro, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, all these people were socialist, and not just socialist, but they believed in Marxism. Marxism ideals are pretty similar to socialists, which is why no wonder that you have so many socialists that believe in Marxism and use it in their philosophies. Hitler was a socialist, Stalin was a socialist, and these were all dictators. And you have to wonder, how is it that all these countries, they start off more or less on the right foot. Okay, maybe some have been corrupted by the government, but a little bit after the socialists begin to take over, as in the Soviet Union as well, they go downhill. They go downhill, the whole economy gets destroyed. And the funny thing that I find about those people who wear the Che Guevara t shirts, I don't know if you could hear me. Might be talking kind of low. There's people sleeping here. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me, John Horst? Oh, there goes my dog. Hold on a second. Right. So a lot of people who go around wearing Che Guevara t-shirts, and they act like they're so proud of it. They act like the guy was some kind of revolutionary hero. All right, given he was a revolutionary, but he was no hero. He was a mass murderer. He directly killed about 124 people on by his own hands. Also, um, Marx, Karl Marx was a racist. Che Guevara, he was born in one of the most, well, the only country considered racist in South America, Argentina. Che Guevara was from Argentina, and he considered Europeans to be above people of African descent. In fact, when he set up the first concentration camps in Cuba with Fidel Castro, he put black people in the labor camps, along with the black priest and anybody who was considered to be um, anti-revolutionist or anti-socialist. They would throw them into the labor camps. Some of them would get tortured in there. But this indeed included black people. Fidel Castro. Up until a couple decades ago, he was still throwing black people in jail, and I'm not talking about criminals. I'm talking about decent black Cuban people who all they wanted to do was make a living. In fact, I have one of them on a video over here. Let me share that screen. Now, this is an interview in Spanish. You can find it on one of my other previous videos, which I uploaded with this interview. I'm getting that clip. Just give me a second here. Let me share the audio. You know, you should never allow these socialists and Marxists to fool you, because they're basically just following a system of lies. They use eloquent lies to deceive people into taking their bait. And once you take that bait, your liberty, your everything, your livelihood, everything's stolen from you. You're basically their slave. They own you.
Luis, a ver, Luis, cuenta. Yo tengo 56 años, no he vivido el capitalismo.
No, it's in Spanish.
Pero se asemeja más a la verdad del ser humano. De la vida. Del ser humano. El capitalismo te dice, si no trabajas, no comes. Dios dijo al ser humano, vivirás del sudor de tu frente. ¿Por qué unos hombres, por decirme que las cosas valen menos precio, te lo voy a dar de gratis? Me estás engañando. No me engañes. Lo único gratis que hay en este mundo es esto. Que lo dio Dios. Todo lo demás nosotros nos cuesta durísimo el ser humano. Tenemos que trabajar esforzando para tener las cosas. Yo no entiendo. Mira, esto antiguamente era propiedad privada. No hay nada. Mira, lo estás viendo. Después queremos. ¿Qué pasa? Que nosotros seres humanos que vivimos en este tipo de sistema le echamos la culpa a un tercero. Siempre estamos echando la culpa de nuestros problemas a otras personas. Y el problema es nosotros. Si aquí hubiese propiedad privada y la gente y propiedad privada, porque nadie de los comerciantes, de los pequeños negocios se vuelven ricos. Tienen, sí, un poquito, pero no son ricos. Claro. Van a seguir y trabajando y trabajan para el pueblo. Los comerciantes siempre han trabajado para el pueblo. Y entonces aquí no dejan tampoco tener propiedad privada, no dejan tener pequeñas empresas. Eso es lo que desarrolla un país. Al destruir eso en Venezuela, es lo que ha quedado. También mucha gente rica se llevaron la plata porque sabía que le iban a perder.
So this Cuban guy is basically explaining how in a socialist system, they do not allow the individual person to develop themselves and to grow and develop their own talents in order to be able to make a living and live a productive lifestyle.
Porque sabía lo que venía y lo mismo pasó aquí. La gente vieron que se fueron. Un sistema que te dice, no, que te damos un sueldo, no es un sueldo. En el sistema socialista que te dan es un subsidio para que no te mueras. No es un sueldo. Yo por lo menos nunca he tenido un sueldo. Yo he tenido un subsidio para comprar las cosas y sobrevivir. Más nada. ¿Y estás buscando tu azúcar? Azúcar. Para echarle a la leche. ¿Y cuánto te cuesta eso? $1. ¿1 peso? ¿Y cuántos kilos hay ahí? ¿O libras? No sé. Ahora es que vengo a comprar esto, pero hace 20 años yo viví sin libreta. Yo viví en una época de mi vida sin libreta. Yo compraba siempre las cosas libres, porque para mí esto crea un ambiente de miseria. Una dependencia también. De miseria y de pobreza. Esto para mí crea un ambiente, como humano que soy, un poquitico. No, entonces este pueblo se ha quedado con eso de poquitico. Y por eso que tú ves que la gente camina. Están acostumbrados, ¿no? Ya. No conocen otra cosa. Ya. Muchos años. Claro. Sufriendo. Que la riqueza no la regeneran los gobiernos, lo generan los pueblos, el pueblo, los talentos que hay en el pueblo. Cada persona nace con un talento y hay que dejarlo que lo desarrolle en el sistema.
Yeah, so he explains in this video that wealth is not generated by the government. He's explaining that wealth is generated by the population, by each individual, and that if you do not allow the population and each individual to develop their talents and grow as a human being, that a country will never achieve wealth. And he's explaining that that's what destroyed Venezuela. You see, he understands what happened in Venezuela as a Cuban who is also living in a country of socialism, and he regrets never having been able to live in a system of capitalists, which he has compared to capitalism as being closer to the truth. So let's continue.
El sistema nosotros no nos permiten eso. Por eso que la gente se van de Cuba. De Cuba se van y cuando llegan a los países, muchos que van con idea salen adelante porque aquí se frena todo, aquí estamos frenados, aquí nos han puesto a nosotros una cosa así para que veamos lo que ellos nada más que quieren que uno vea. Y a mí me dicen aquí en Cuba, yo estaba preso, mira, yo estuve preso cuando era joven, en el gobierno de Fidel Castro estuve preso. Me metían preso cada 5 minutos.
Yeah, so he's saying there that Fidel Castro was always throwing him in jail. That he's kind of joking about it, but he's saying that he basically got thrown in jail every 5 minutes. But yeah, so he was in there a lot for just wanting to make a living. So does that scenario sound familiar with the lockdowns that are going on? How they're trying to throw people in jail for wanting to open up their business? That's why I call the coronavirus scamdemic, I call it the communist virus. My dad and I used to joke about that all the time because it's very similar how they apply socialistic regulations to this scamdemic. And I'm sorry, it's a scamdemic. It's what it is. So let me take a look at the comments really quick. So Johannes, so you're saying the stupid part is that capitalists are getting rich on his merchandise? What capitalist? Or are you talking about the Cuban government, which are actually capitalists in disguise, just preaching socialism? Because in reality, that's really what all these socialists in government are. They're the real greedy capitalist that they preach against. The greedy capitalists are those that truly do want to take from others. The only thing is that they don't tell you that they're secret capitalist. They hide behind socialism. They want socialism for you, the general population, the common people, but they want capitalism for themselves and to prevent you, the people, from having that free capitalist system and maintaining prosperity or gaining any wealth. They have to keep you oppressed with socialism. That's what they'll have you brainwashed through the school system. How do you explain Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, for example? He grew up poor. He grew up in a very humble society, neighborhood. And as soon as he became president, by means of lying to the people, promising the majority of those struck by poverty, which there's many Venezuelans who were poor, not as much as there is now though, because they just threw the whole country into poverty, and that's what socialists do. It's not wealth for all; it's poverty for all. And I'm surprised how many people still don't learn the lesson from those who lived through it and went through it, and they don't heed the warning. This happened when I was in Venezuela, me coming from a Cuban background. My parents fled communism. They came to the United States. One of my grandfathers fled to Venezuela, and that's where my dad was born. And I remember being back in high school, just before I came over here. Well, I had already graduated, and I stuck around Venezuela for a couple of years before moving here and going to college here in Florida. But just before I left, um, Chavez was coming up as a candidate, and he was running for president. And the truth is, all the things that he was preaching sounded noble. It sounded like a good cause. It sounded charitable, that he just wanted to help the poor people and he wanted to lift them out of poverty, and that he was against any racism. Now, mind you, racism was actually not something that you would see often in Venezuela, but he tried to create an awareness of racism and division, also between classes, poor versus rich. And that's what these people do. They try to make people ultra aware of their differences to divide them. This would be by skin color, race, social class, how much money these people are making, their education level. So he, these socialists, what they do is they use racism as a card. Um, they just feed into the insecurities of the less fortunate, or the people who feel that they're less fortunate in this world. And so, um, he started creating division in the country based on racism. Um, Now, a lot of people ended up voting for him because of it. The majority were poor. But not only the majority, you had many rich people who voted for him because they believed in what he was preaching, this noble cause about being charitable and helping people. So the first time that he ran for president, the majority of Venezuelans did vote for him, including rich people, middle class, people of all races. He did have the admiration of the people in Venezuela. Now, I was not one who voted for him. I didn't get the chance to vote anyways, because the first election, I was already back here in the US. But before I left, I had clearly warned all my Venezuelan friends who were considering voting for him. Many of them did. And I told them, look, I know what Chavez is preaching. It sounds good. And he seems like he's going to help all these poor people, and that he's there for a good cause, and he's going to cause some kind of good change in society and make the country prosper, not just the rich, but the poor. And that, it's going to be great. Um, but the truth is that what he's saying really does look a lot like the policies of what Fidel Castro and Che Guevara were implementing in Cuba. Everything that I heard from my grandparents, how they talked about the kind of stuff that Fidel Castro was preaching, this sounded like it was coming, like everything Chavez was preaching sounded like if it was coming directly from Fidel Castro's playbook. I mean, nearly word by word. And it turns out that later on, it was revealed that Fidel Castro was a mentor of Hugo Chavez. They later on became buddies and friends. And so Fidel Castro also had his hand in influencing Chavez. So, I did my part in warning my Venezuelan people, friends, not to vote for Hugo Chavez. And initially, Hugo Chavez vehemently denied that he was even a socialist. He blatantly lied and said that he was not a socialist, that he was just there for a good cause. And I told my friends, I said, don't believe him, because this guy, it sounds to me like he's lying. He's talking about the same kind of policies that my grandparents saw implemented in Cuba and that they always warned about. And so, you know, Venezuelans, they decided to vote for him. They fell for the socialist lies. And the second year, they went ahead, the second term, 4 years later, they went ahead and they still kind of believe in, they were still kind of believing in him, even though they still hadn't seen much change. But he was all talk. And these socialists are all talk. It's all preachy, nice words, eloquent lies. They never take any real action for the people. And the only actions that they take is really the opposite of what they preach. Because instead of them uh, helping out the poor people, they end up pocketing money from those that they take it from, and then they just leave little breadcrumbs for the rest of the population. Um, I think it's really pathetic that people would wear T-shirts praising socialists, especially the type like like Che Guevara, who was a mass murderer. He was a racist, and it just baffles me when I see a black person wearing a Che Guevara T-shirt or a black person preaching Marxism and socialism, which comes from Marxist ideologies, and Karl Marx was a big time racist. I mean, let me look for some articles here that has some quotes. Just a second. I mean, I think it's unbelievable that anybody who is against racism would seriously praise somebody like Che Guevara, who was an ultimate racist. The guy was also homophobic. He believed that that gay people should be put to death. And he stuck many gay people in his concentration camps in Cuba, the labor camps. Oh my, not just gay people, black people as well. All right, let me show you. All right, I'm going to show you some quotes right here from Karl Marx himself. Okay? Okay, I think I got the wrong screen here. I got the Hitler was a socialist who learned from Karl Marx. Yeah, that's another issue that was true as well. All right, here we go. Look at the words of Karl Marx. He said in a quote in 1866 in a letter to Friedrich Engels, true Marx proved that the common Negrotype is the degenerate form of a much higher one, a very significant advance over Darwin. He also said in 1862 in Manchester to the same person, Friedrich Engels, Karl Marx said, the Jewish nigger Lazeo, who I'm glad to say is leaving at the end of this week, has happily lost another 5,000 healers in an ill-judged speculation. The chap would soon throw money down the drain, then lend it to a friend, even though his interest and capital were guaranteed. It is now quite plain to me, as the shape of his head and the way his hair grows also testify that he is descended from the Negroes who accompanied Moses' flight from Egypt, unless his mother or paternal grandmother interbred with a nigger. Now, this blend of Jewishness and Germanness on the one hand, and basic Negroid stock on the other, must inevitably give rise to a peculiar product. The fellow's importunity is also nigger-like. These were the words of Karl Marx. And you people are going to support Marxism. And the most racist people on earth came of Marxism theology or philosophy, sorry. They followed these Marxist ideas and then they became socialist. Let's go over a little bit of Che Guevara's history. Let's see. 5 inconvenient truths about Che Guevara. Okay, Guevara said that he killed people without regard to guilt or innocence. Um, so this guy, he didn't care if the people that he got were innocent or not guilty. He didn't bother to investigate, and he would just kill them cold blooded. He was directly responsible for at least 124 killings. That was at his own hands. He created a system that put gay people in labor camps. And then you have gay people on the left supporting socialism, supporting Marxism, and praising Che Guevara. And they have no idea what this guy was even about. Talk about brainwashing people in the public school system. And this is why you do look super ridiculous wearing a Che Guevara t-shirt. If you're somebody who's in favor of gay marriages, you're over on the left and you're anti-racist, and you go around wearing a Che Guevara t-shirt, he who was a racist, a Marxist who was a racist, Karl Marx was a racist, Hitler was a racist. These are all socialists. And you wear these t-shirts not realizing how stupid you look to the people who knew the history on these guys. Guevara set up Cuba's first forced labor camp for people who viewed the state, the people who were considered delinquents by the state. Those were the ones who were sent over to the forced labor camps, and that was anybody who disagreed with the socialist revolutionary government that was taking control. Anybody who was against socialist ideals was taken in and thrown into a forced labor camp. But a lot of gay people were thrown in there too, along with Black people, African Cuban priests. Christians were thrown in there. They didn't like religion because, you can't worship God or anything that gives you a sense of hope and individuality, because these people are against individuality. Look at this. They would throw people in jail. They considered it a crime if you listen to rock and roll or anything that was from the US or anything that was from any foreign country that was against the socialist government. Guevara opposed the free press. He said we must eliminate all newspapers because we cannot make a revolution with a free press. Now, why do you think they can't do that without a free press? Because a free press is going to preach the truth to you. There's going to be many people who are going to come out and speak the truth. Socialists require censorship because they needed to censor the truth. And these men became ultra rich once they came into control, while the rest of the common people became ultra poor. Guevara made racist statements. In Che Guevara's diary, he wrote of the blacks living in Caracas, Venezuela, calling them those magnificent examples of the African race who have maintained their racial purity thanks to their lack of an affinity with bathing. He also wrote, "The black is indolent and a dreamer, spending his meager wage on frivolity or drink. The European has a tradition of work and saving." Many of the people Che was sending to the firing squad were members of Batista's army, and these disproportionately tended to be black and mulatto. Batista himself was a mulatto. And Batista had been considered by many Cubans to be a friend of Cuba's black minority. This guy also had a Messiah complex. Guevara's diaries contained grandiose wordings that had him casting himself as a savior, absolving the sins of privilege with bloodshed. He was a very violent man. And like I said, he was a mass murderer. So, what is it that you would praise about this type of human being? I don't get it. But let me go back. Comments. John Horst says a capitalist needs to sell me that fool's tank top. You might want to skip some of the words in that article so you don't get flagged for reading it. Oh, that is true. That's true. That could happen. I'm still here, right? Because I only see 0 views. Iggy Alexander. Kaepernick is an idiot. uh, so let me get back to this Cuban guy right here. I hope you guys speak Spanish. I hope you're understanding it. John Horst is you're a Mexican. I know you kind of understand it. Yeah, so this is a Cuban guy, and he's explaining how the Cuban government wanted him to work for free. And he's saying that he didn't want to work for the government or the state. He just wanted to work for himself and make his own living. And Fidel Castro threw him into jail plenty of times over that because the guy was just trying to make a living. Yeah, so this Venezuelan guy, he's agreeing with the Cuban guy and explaining that that kind of system really doesn't work and it's not a benefit to any country. So here's the other Venezuelan guy. Oh, I forgot to switch the screen on that one to show you. Hold on a second. Yeah, I know it's still short showing the article. I had it on play and I forgot to switch the screen. Let me get it back. Yeah, so here's the Cuban guy who's talking about how Fidel Castro threw him in jail. Yeah, so he saw this Venezuelan tourist who came to see what a socialism was really like in Cuba, and he's explaining how the system works to him.
¿Qué pasa? Que nosotros seres humanos que vivimos en este tipo de sistema le echamos la culpa a un tercero. Siempre estamos echando la culpa de nuestros problemas a otras personas. Y el problema es nosotros. Si aquí hubiese propiedad privada y la gente y propiedad privada, porque nadie de los comerciantes, de los pequeños negocios se vuelven ricos. Tienen, sí, un poquito, pero no son ricos. Claro. Van a seguir y trabajando y trabajan para el pueblo. Claro. Los comerciantes siempre han trabajado para el pueblo. Y entonces aquí no dejan tampoco tener propiedad privada, no dejan tener pequeñas empresas. Eso es lo que desarrolla un país. Al destruir eso en Venezuela, es lo que ha quedado. También mucha gente rica se llevaron la plata porque sabía que le iban a perder. Porque sabía lo que venía. Y lo mismo pasó aquí. La gente vieron que se fueron. Un sistema que te dice, no, que te damos un sueldo. No es un sueldo. En el sistema socialista que te dan es un subsidio para que no te mueras. No es un sueldo. Nosotros, yo por lo menos nunca he tenido un sueldo. Yo he tenido un subsidio para comprar las cosas y sobrevivir. Más nada.
Y estás buscando tu
azúcar. Azúcar. Para echarle a la leche.
¿Cuánto te cuesta eso?
$1.
$1. ¿Y cuántos kilos hay ahí?
No,
¿O libras?
No sé. No, ahora es que vengo a comprar esto, pero hace 20 años yo viví sin libreta. Yo viví en una época de mi vida sin libreta. Yo compraba siempre las cosas libres, porque para mí esto crea un ambiente de miseria.
Una dependencia también.
De miseria y de pobreza. Esto para mí crea un ambiente, como humano que soy, un poquitico. No, entonces este pueblo se ha quedado con eso de poquitico. Y por eso que tú ves que la gente camina.
Están acostumbrados, no conocen otra cosa.
Ya. Muchos años. Claro. Sufriendo. Que la riqueza no la generan los gobiernos, lo generan los pueblos, el pueblo, los talentos que hay en el pueblo. Cada persona nace con un talento y hay que dejarlo que lo desarrolle. En el sistema nosotros no. Por eso que la gente se van de Cuba se van, y cuando llegan a los países, muchos que van con ideas salen adelante, porque aquí se frena todo, aquí estamos frenados, aquí nos han puesto a nosotros una cosa así para que veamos lo que ellos nada más que quieren que uno vea. Y a mí me dicen aquí en Cuba, yo estaba preso, mira, yo estuve preso cuando era joven, en el gobierno de Fidel Castro estuve preso, me metían preso cada 5 minutos. Es mentira. Una vez que decía peligrosidad, porque yo no trabajaba, dice que yo no trabajaba, pero yo no quería trabajar para el Estado, yo quiero trabajar para mí, cobramos un impuesto.
Gracias, Luis. No, cuídate. Ahora les pregunto yo a ustedes.
All right, so do you agree with that? I only see 0 people on here, but I know I have at least 1 person. So would you agree that people should have a right to grow, develop, and have the ability to make their own living without the government prohibiting them from doing that? So, and Hitler, he was a socialist. So I already showed you quotes from Karl Marx, what he said as a racist. I showed you the worst quotes from Che Guevara, who was even a worse racist. He called, what was it? He was talking poorly about the blacks in the city of Caracas, Venezuela. So Che Guevara was no fan of the liberator Simón Bolívar in South America. So you people who go around posting these Che Guevara posters, like if he's this idol to worship, and walking around with his face on a t-shirt, please realize how ridiculous and how ignorant it looks. Because what you're doing is you're putting on display, you're praising an outright mass murderer He was an open racist. He was an open homophobe who believed that gay people should be put to death. So I don't see how people who are anti-racist or how anybody who's black would want to be praising Che Guevara, an individual like that. And John Horst, he said, of course, I agree. That's my biggest issue with California. What is the biggest issue within California? John Horst, can you hear me fine? Well, yeah, I think Che Guevara was a figure that they made popular in California, right? The regulations cost to live free, to do anything free. Yeah, what do you think of Florida so far? It's a big difference from California, isn't it? Who, Che Guevara? His image is everywhere, like he was some god. You know what he is? He was the god of manslaughter. He was the god of racism. He was the god of slavery. That's what I believe that he was. Oh, he didn't dare set foot into Venezuela. So I'm going to share this other clip of another Venezuelan. Yes, because we have freedom in this state. Florida is the freest state in the United States of America. I think every other state should be like Florida, really. So I'm going to share the next clip. It's a fellow Venezuelan. Let me click share audio to make sure. This guy right here. So back to this guy.
People are dying. You go to the supermarkets, there's no food, they're empty. You can find probably Coca-Cola, Pepsi, but you don't find pasta, rice, beans, like the basic food that you need for you to live. You cannot find it in any supermarket.
So here's my question: If the country was so prosperous, why did people vote for Hugo Chavez in the first place?
The first place, well, the ignorance of the people. The majority of the people in Venezuela, they are poor people. So a lot of them, they haven't been have the education that they need to be smart enough to don't get brainwashed by these candidates from to be president. So other thing, you go to the drugstore and you cannot find even a pill for a headache. You can find deodorant, shampoo, makeup for the girls doesn't exist, diapers for the babies doesn't exist. So is the country collapse in all the ways that you can think of, all the ways. And Venezuela is the country that have more oil in the world. And even we having problem with the gas with people to fill their tanks in their cars. People, my brother that is still living there, they tell me when I used to live back in Venezuela 4 years ago, they used to take them 3 hours in a line to fill their tank. Now they're taking 2 days making a line to fill up the tank of his car with gasoline.
Okay,
That's
so
crazy. Why?
Yep, that's very true. The last trip that I went to Venezuela, 2016, even back some years ago, it was pretty hard just to go fill up the gas tank. You had to make a huge line. Well, back then, the line was about an hour long, more or less. Um, he's talking about several hours. But yeah, nowadays, it takes the people like 2 or 3 days lining up just to get gas, just to put gas in the car. And yes, the gasoline in Venezuela has always been super cheap. I mean, the last time I went there, you could fill up a gas tank. I'm not kidding, for like 10 cents, you could fill up the gas tank. And it was even a little bit lower when I used to live there. My high school years, I think it was like 3 or 4 cents to fill up the gas tank. Now the price has gone up a bit. I mean, I know 10 cents doesn't really seem like a lot, but to the Venezuelans, it does. And, they basically nationalized the oil companies. So they're running that now. They're in control of that. And yeah, they subsidize it, and they did promise a discounted gas price for the Venezuelans. At one point, certain Venezuelans who worked with the government got it for free. But this is what happens. I mean, would you rather have something for free or at a discount price where you have to wait for 2 days in line to get? Or would you rather that people have the right to form private companies where it may be a little bit more money for them, but they can get it immediately if they want? Or at the very least, no less than 10 minutes, 20 minutes. But come on. I remember over there, last trip that I went to, it was completely different from when I used to live there. When I used to live there, there was plenty of gas stations. You could fill up the gas for 40 cents, and it was rather quickly. You would just go, stop, fill up the gas tank, and go. My last trip, people were waiting about an hour to get gas. That itself is stressful because normally 1 hour waiting in line just to get gas, that's normally what happens here when there's some kind of catastrophic event warning, like a hurricane's on the way, and then you see everybody lining up to go get gas in case they have to go to another city or leave the state. So the gas stations get filled up with cars and you wait about an hour. Well, I mean, that really happens here in Florida, but that's how it was every single day in Venezuela. Like every single day, you're lining up an hour at the gas stations.
That
That's
is
happening.
crazy.
I don't understand that.
So you said that the people weren't educated, but Chavez must have promised the people something that would give them a reason to want to vote for him. What did he promise them?
Well, I saw one of his speechmen before Chavez was a president. I was in Merida City, which is in Los Andes in Venezuela, and I saw hundred of people walking through the street, and I started following the crowd, and end up being it was a speechman of Hugo Chavez before being a president, and I started listening to the speechman, and what he was saying was everything was not making sense to me because if somebody's gonna throw himself as a president, they're gonna talk about how they're gonna fix their problems that the country has or how they're gonna make the country better. He didn't talk anything like that. He was saying we're gonna fry the corrupt people, the
Oh, yeah, that's another thing they tell you. They won't give you exactly what their plan is, what their solutions are. to bring about their promises, how they're going to make it happen. The only thing that they're resolved to is complaining about how the rich people get more rich and how we got to get rid of these rich folks and these corporations because, it's corrupt. How could people have so much money? And these people keep getting poorer and poorer. So all they do is point fingers at people who make money, at the rich, but they won't tell you exactly how they're planning to get rid of poverty because they have no plan. Their plan is to steal the money from the richer people, pocket that money, and then leave the breadcrumbs to the people who really need it the most. And then what you see is what you saw with Chavez. Chavez became a multimillionaire. Um, Chavez was always criticizing the United States. He was always criticizing the rich. And he sent his daughter to live in Miami. She lives in a mansion in Miami. Where did he get that money from? Where did she get that money from? That was off the backs of the poor Venezuelans. They stole from the country of Venezuela and made themselves rich. Same thing with Maduro.
The people that are stealing the money from Venezuela were gonna fry in the pan, and people that were like, yeah, yeah, and I was looking at everybody. I was like, what? That he's not talking like fixing the real problems. He's just talking about burning or frying the other candidates that they wanna be president. That's really stupid. People believing, and the ignorance was that people vote for him because the majority they're poor, and he helped a lot of poor people.
Well, what did he say about the rich people?
He was born poor, Chavez, and he died rich. So he got a lot of hate of the rich people. He hated rich people, but he became rich, and Venezuela became a socialist country, right? Socialist country supposed to they're supposed to make their own products and don't use any product for other countries. That's what socialism is about it. But Chavez family, his daughters, they go to United States and they see picture and post picture in Facebook using Levi's, using Oakley's sunglasses, all kind of American brands. So what is this socialism example? If they're Chavez kids, they use American brands, you know.
So,
So
so did they want? Did he want to take? Typically, in socialism, what you hear of is there's a redistribution of what the money that the rich have. They have too much, and everybody else needs to have theirs.
yeah, they used to start taking, for example, if you a rich guy used to have a farm with, let's say, 30,000 acres. He used to take from that person 10,000 acres and give it to the poor people and build houses for the poor people.
Just take it.
Just take it.
Take what wasn't his
Yeah,
from somebody
like
who
just
earned
take
it.
it for no, not legally, just in the bad ways with the military. This is mine now, and there's nothing that you can do.
So what happened to the rich people then? Because their money is worth a lot less too. I just read the other day that inflation in Venezuela on the bolivar is now 200,000%.
And
So
yeah.
what happened to the rich people?
The most of the rich people, they have left the country. They have left to countries like United States or Europe. Mostly, all my family, the only ones that are in Venezuela, it's my mom, my brother, and my nephew. And the rest, they're in other countries. I have a cousin in London. I have family in United States. I have another cousin in Netherlands. I'm here in Colombia because I got the nationality, so it was easy for me to get a legit job in here and speak English. And I'm working as a tour guide in here, and I love my job in here. So far so good, working out.
But you send money back to your mother and your
Yeah,
family.
I help them out because they don't get in their pension. My mom is 70 years old, and she's not getting the pension that she's supposed to get for being in old, an old person in third age. They say third age,
Yeah.
tercera edad. Yeah, when they're older than 60 years, all the people should get a paycheck every month
But she
because they're
doesn't
old.
get hers anymore.
No. And also my oldest brother, he used to work for the oil company, which it was the best job that you could get in Venezuela back in the day, which it was PDVSA, PDVSA, that's the initial, PDVSA, Petróleos de Venezuela, that was the company. And my oldest brother worked all his life in PDVSA, and PDVSA broke, bankrupt right now, collapsed. My brother's supposed to
Because
get,
of the government policies.
yeah, the government
What?
took PDVSA.
They took it over.
Yeah, took it over, and they stole all the money. The government take over the bank. He's stealing the money. He's stealing everything. The main industries that make food, they took over. They making like they are the owners.
And that's perfect example of what these socialists are really all about. It's using this disguise, right? That they're gonna be helping out the poor, that they're just helping the people, the common people, and they bait them and they pit them against the richer people in the country to cause a division and to give them a reason to come against them. And so they use the vote of the majority of these people in order to illegally steal from the richer people. Then what they do is they pocket over half of that money for themselves and leave the breadcrumbs for the rest of the people. And that's how the socialists get away with it. You cannot believe in their eloquent lies. You can't believe in the words that they preach. It's all delusional lies. It's all bait. It's how they steal the wealth from a country legally.
So they're doing with the country whatever they want.
So there are people in America. There's political candidates that are suggesting that the rich have too much and the rich should take, what they have. They're not paying enough taxes, and they're saying that we need the government to take over our healthcare system, and the government should run a lot of the industries that the private sector now runs. What would you say to Americans that are thinking about electing somebody that promises them free stuff?
But you gotta be smart enough and open-minded to see the truth, because you can't believe in or what the most of those guys, they say lies. They promise and promise and promise, and they don't do what they're supposed to do. So socialism doesn't work. Forget about that. And it's never gonna work. It never have worked in any country, and it's not gonna work even if you think that it's gonna work, because I heard that the new generation in United States, they are thinking in socialism, because a friend of mine lived in United States 10 years, 5 years in New Jersey, 5 years in California. And a friend of mine told me that the new generation right now, they are thinking different, they're thinking like socialism and stuff. And that's really crazy, because you guys wanna United States gets like Venezuela? No, right? United States is the best country in the world. It's the people go there to become the American dream. People go there for that, and you guys don't wanna your country collapse in the economy, in like unhealthy in the hospitals and food. You don't want that for you guys. So socialism doesn't work.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure talking to you guys. I hope you guys take this example. Don't believe the lies that Maduro is saying, because he keeps saying that Venezuela is fine. I saying Venezuelan come back to the country, and let's gonna make how they're gonna make the country. You make $3 a month. You can even buy one chicken with $3. How a father of a family can support a family with $3 a month. You can even buy a box of cereal with that. So that's why people are starving and they're leaving. And most of the people coming to this country, Colombia, because next to is the easiest and cheapest country to come, and you don't need a visa to come to Colombia.
And it's beautiful here. Come to Medellin.
Yeah,
and if you do come to Medellin, then you need to look up.
So the reason I share these videos is so that you can get other points of views and see that I'm not the only Venezuelan or Cuban American who holds these views and who has lived through something like this. Most Venezuelans, most Cubans who have made the mistake of voting for socialist, they will tell you all about this, and they would tell you how they regret making that decision. Personally, like I said, I never voted for Chavez. I already knew about Chavez being a socialist, even though initially he lied and he said that he was not a socialist. But I knew what he was preaching and I knew the kind of policies that he was talking about implementing. And I compared that to the policies of Fidel Castro that my Cuban grandmother warned me about. So I was already informed by my Cuban grandparents and the Cubans who fled Fidel Castro. So I already knew about that. I tried to warn my fellow Venezuelans about it. Most of them, they didn't listen. And this is what happened. Iggy Alexander. So what do you think about Mr. Che Guevara? Let me read the comments back over here. The John Horsey said that there was a big mural of Che in Boyle Heights, California. Now, I'm surprised. Why did Black Lives Matter not go after the Che Guevara mural? The guy was a complete racist. Marxists are usually racist. Che Guevara came from one of the most racist countries in the world, or at least in South America. He was born in Argentina. That's basically the only racist country in South America. It's Argentina. Che Guevara used to talk bad about the blacks in Caracas, Venezuela. And he sent black people into concentration camps in Cuba, along with homosexual people that he believed should be put to death just for being gay. So I don't see how Che Guevara statues or murals or posters have not been removed by the public in places like California and more liberal states. Oh, by the way, John Horace, did you see the Cuban guava pastry that this guy was eating? It looks so good. Let's see. I know he's going to come around it here. Wait, let me get the screen.
Ah,
Yummy, yummy.
guava. Ok. Miren, qué
Cuban
sabroso
guava
se ve eso.
pastry.
Me va a dar
That looks
mitad
so
de coco
good.
y mitad de guayaba.
¿Qué parte de Venezuela es eso?
Maracay se llama mi ciudad.
Ah, pero Maracay no le pertenece a la capital de Venezuela.
No.
Una hora.
Mándale
Sí.
saludos a esa gente, a la gente de Venezuela.
Mándale tú un saludo. Los te están viendo.
Yes,
Te
John
están viendo.
Horst, I remember.
Por el video.
My mom ate your
Bueno, y
Cuban
haciendo ese
pastry.
tipo de cosas es que se resuelve también mucha gente aquí vendiendo sus cosas en la calle, preparando sus propias cosas. Y así es que, bueno, logran salir adelante mes a mes. Bueno, yo vine un momentico al Airbnb para dejar las cosas que compramos en el mercado y a probar esto delicioso que compré, que es como un pie. Este es el de coco, vamos a ver. Nah, qué bueno está. Muy bueno.
I could almost taste it because I've bought those pastries down at the Cuban bakeries in Miami. They're really good.
Buenísimo. Bueno, ese era el de coco. Ahora voy a probar el de guan.
There's even a vegan Cuban bakery down in Miami that I went to, and they have really good stuff down there.
El de guayaba. A ver.
¿Cuál está mejor?
Qué bueno. Bueno, como ustedes saben, yo no me encuentro solo, no les había presentado a Angie. Estaba tan ocupado llevándole las cosas. ¿Cómo estás, Angie?
Bien.
¿Qué te ha parecido Cuba? Sí, ¿no?
Bueno, por ahora muy bonitas las partes que hemos ido. Sinceramente veo muchas calles como abandonadas, esta parte aquí como olvidadas. Es como una ciudad que se quedó congelada en el tiempo.
Exacto.
Literal. Así.
Exactamente.
Y bueno, para mí que soy turista, pues obviamente es curioso, me llama la atención y hasta puedo decir, me gusta un poco. Claro que sí.
Tiene cierta belleza, tiene cierto encanto.
Sí, claro que sí. Pero bueno, no sé qué opinan los cubanos de vivir así. Supongo que deben estar súper acostumbrados. Pero hasta ahorita a mí me está gustando de verdad la isla. Está bien bonita.
Sí. Si quieren que les sea sincero cómo me siento estando aquí, es como que si estuviera recorriendo un barrio de Venezuela, un barrio así en el que me sentiría inseguro por el aspecto que tiene, pero su gente lo hace diferente porque las personas son súper amables, son súper atentas, sientes que de verdad no te va a pasar absolutamente nada, cada quien está en lo suyo. Si ven la cámara, pues sonríen. La verdad es que el ambiente que se siente es súper diferente. Fíjense este edificio todo nuevecito, pintadito, recién como remodelado. Y fíjense este otro aquí, ya más viejito. Esto es un centro de abastecimiento, de venta controlada de los productos regulados que da el gobierno mensualmente con la tarjeta de regulamiento de aquí de Cuba. Bueno, miren, estoy entrevistando a la señora. ¿Cómo se llama usted? Carmen. La señora Carmen me va a explicar más o menos cómo es lo de la tarjeta. ¿Qué le llaman ustedes? ¿Tarjeta de alimentación?
Sí, es la libreta de abastecimiento.
Libreta de abastecimiento. ¿Y cómo funciona?
Los productos que dan por la bodega se cogen mensualmente.
Ok.
El arroz, los frijoles, el azúcar blanca, el azúcar prieta,
Ok.
aceite,
¿Y qué más incluye?
las compotas de los niños. A veces son 13 cada 3 o 4 meses, son 13
compotas
por niño.
cada 3 o 4 meses por niño. Ok, ¿y qué más incluye aparte de eso?
Bueno, le decía el arroz, los frijoles, el azúcar, el aceite, la sal, los fósforos.
¿Huevos, por ejemplo?
Los huevos son en la carnicería que son allá frente.
Pero no está regulado.
Está aquí también.
Está ahí también, pero los van a buscar en otro sitio.
Y en otra esquina está la leche de los niños, son las bolsas más chiquitas, las bolsas más grandes según la edad de los niños.
¿Y aquí qué solo busca? ¿El arroz?
El arroz, los frijoles, el azúcar, el aceite, sal, fósforo.
Ok,
y la pasta como el espagueti.
Ah, ok, o sea, tienen varios de estos en diferentes puntos y diferentes cosas le dan en cada uno. ¿Y cómo rellenan eso? O sea, le hacen una marquita.
Sí, eso lo ponen la cantidad de productos que uno va llevando.
Ah, miren, aquí está arroz, granos, aceite, azúcar, azúcar RG.
R fino es la blanca.
Y la azúcar.
Y la cruda es la morena. Como le decimos, la mulatica, la morena, la prieta.
Ok. La compota de los niños, la sal, este que dice alimentación.
Pasta alimenticia.
Pasta alimenticia. Ok. Café y fósforo. Esto es lo que.
Y abajo del arroz adicional que dan 2 libras por persona de arroz adicional.
Y eso es una cantidad limitada por mes, por persona o por familia.
Por persona.
Por persona. Indiferente si hay un grupo familiar grande, cada uno tiene su libreta.
Sí, 5 libras de arroz por persona.
Ok, y dígame algo, ¿eso alcanza para el mes?
No.
Es una ayuda.
No, es una ayuda.
Es una ayuda. Y es una ¿considera usted buena?
A veces a los 15 días no llega, tiene que ir por fuera, comprar carros por libre, frijoles por la libre, porque no.
Claro, pues no alcanza. Claro, y cuando es una familia grande me supongo que es más difícil aún. Y esto es completamente gratis. Se lo dan totalmente gratis. O tiene un costo, pero más barato de lo que pudiera costar.
A veces se trata de estirar, pero bueno.
Claro. ¿Y esta libreta para cuánto alcanza? ¿Un año? Un año. Cada año la renuevan.
Ahora a final de mes le dan la libreta para el otro año.
Ok. Está bien. Bueno, muchísimas gracias. La señora con su arrocito. ¿Cómo te llamas tú?
Luis.
Luis. A ver, Luis, cuenta.
Yo tengo 56 años. No he vivido el capitalismo. Pero se asemeja más a la verdad
A la realidad de la vida.
del ser humano. El capitalismo te dice, si no trabajas, no comes. Dios dijo al ser humano, vivirás del sudor de tu frente. ¿Por qué unos hombres por decirme que las cosas valen menos precio, te lo voy a dar de gratis? Me estás engañando. No me engañen. Lo único gratis que hay en este mundo es esto. Que lo dio Dios, todo lo demás nosotros nos cuesta durísimo el ser humano, tenemos que trabajar, esforzarnos para tener las cosas. Yo no entiendo, mira, esto antiguamente era propiedad privada, no hay nada, mira, lo estás viendo. Después, ¿qué pasa? Que nosotros seres humanos que vivimos en este tipo de sistema le echamos la culpa a un tercero. Siempre estamos echando la culpa de nuestros problemas a otras personas. Y el problema es nosotros. Si aquí hubiese propiedad privada y la gente y propiedad privada, porque nadie de los comerciantes, de los pequeños negocios se vuelven ricos. Tienen sí, un poquito, pero no son ricos. Claro. Van a seguir y trabajando y siguen al pueblo. Los comerciantes siempre han trabajado para el pueblo. Y entonces aquí no dejan tampoco tener propiedad privada, no dejan tener pequeñas empresas. Eso es lo que desarrolla un país. Al destruir eso en Venezuela, es lo que ha quedado. También mucha gente rica se llevaron la plata porque sabía que le iban a perder. Porque sabía lo que venía. Y lo mismo pasó aquí. La gente vieron que se fueron. Un sistema que te dice, no, que te damos un sueldo, no es un sueldo en el sistema socialista, que te dan es un subsidio para que no te mueras. No es un sueldo. Yo por lo menos nunca he tenido un sueldo. Yo tenía un subsidio para comprar las cosas y sobrevivir. Más nada.
Y estás buscando tu ración de arroz.
Azúcar.
Azúcar.
Para echarle a la leche.
¿Y cuánto te cuesta eso?
$1.
¿1 peso? ¿Y cuántos kilos hay ahí?
No,
¿O libras?
No sé. Ahora es que vengo a comprar esto, pero hace 20 años yo viví sin libreta. Yo viví en una época de mi vida sin libreta. Yo compraba siempre las cosas libres, porque para mí ha creado esto crea un ambiente de miseria.
Una dependencia también.
De miseria y de pobreza. Esto para mí crea un ambiente, como humano que soy, un poquitico. No, entonces este pueblo se ha quedado con eso de poquitico. Y por eso que tú ves que la gente camina.
Están acostumbrados, no conocen otra cosa.
Ya. Muchos años, claro. Sufriendo. La riqueza no la generan los gobiernos, lo generan los pueblos, el pueblo, los talentos que hay en el pueblo. Cada persona nace con un talento y hay que dejarlo que lo desarrolle. En el sistema nosotros no nos permiten eso. Por eso que la gente se van de Cuba se van, y cuando llegan a los países, muchos que van con ideas salen adelante, porque aquí se frena todo, aquí estamos frenados, aquí nos han puesto a nosotros una cosa así para que veamos lo que ellos nada más que quieren que uno vea. Y a mí me dicen aquí en Cuba, yo estaba preso, mira, yo estuve preso cuando era joven, en el gobierno de Fidel Castro estuve preso. Me metían preso cada 5 minutos. Es mentira. Una vez que decía peligrosidad, porque yo no trabajaba, dice que yo no trabajaba, pero yo no quería trabajar para el Estado, yo quiero trabajar para mí, cobrando un impuesto.
Bueno, Luis. Chao, cuídate. Ahora les pregunto yo a ustedes, viendo eso, ¿ustedes creen que eso es necesario? ¿Ustedes creen que con eso hay un gran avance para un país? ¿Eso en qué va a ayudar a un país a prosperar? De que las personas dependan de que el gobierno les dé una ración de comida mensual que ni siquiera alcanza para todo el mes, que ni siquiera es gratis porque la tienen que pagar más barata, pero se la tienen que pagar.
Yeah, so there you go. You heard it straight from a fellow Venezuelan, a Cuban, people who have lived in socialist countries and witnessed what happened. Don't fall for the pretty lies of socialism. And please stop it with the Che Guevara t-shirts. Please know that to the people who are not that ignorant, you look like a moron. You look ridiculous. It really makes you look foolish. I'm just saying. There's nothing nice about worshiping a mass murderer, a racist, a person who put gays to death and in concentration camps just for being gay. And I'm not even somebody who is for gay relationships, but I'm not going to get involved in going after them. That's such a waste of time. I actually have a brother who's gay, so he got himself brainwashed too by the socialists, unfortunately. So I only see 0 viewers on here, John Horace, but I know you're there. So I don't know if I should end the live stream or if I should keep going on with the videos. Let me share one that I think is pretty funny. I don't know if you've heard of Caitlin Bennett. She always goes after the liberals. So funny. Hold on, let me get the video.
She's gonna eat it. Did you say to me? You know I carry, right? Thanks so much to everyone who subscribed to the channel and
That was too funny. No, but I saw one where she was questioning people about whether having to show your ID for voting or getting a voter ID is considered racist. And most Black people don't think that it's racist to have an ID to vote. You see where he's at?
as someone who isn't white, is it racist?
No, I feel like people should be like having a voter ID because you have to know who you are. Like if you're going to vote, how do we know that you're not a citizen from another country?
A lot of things in the world that's racist, that's not considered one. And I would know that for a fact.
Georgia just passed a bill that requires voter ID. Pretty common sense, right? Big companies don't think so. They think it's racist. Let's figure out if the people in Clearwater, Florida agree with that. Did you know there's an opportunity to talk to me one-on-one in my private Facebook group? You can gain access by donating $5 a month to me at patreon.com/Caitlin Bennett. Like-minded people are there. We talk all the time. It's
No. That has nothing to
think that's racist.
racist to cat. You said what?
To use an ID to vote.
No. That has nothing to do
No.
with race.
Has nothing to do with race.
If it's for everybody, then no, it's not.
Yeah, no.
I don't think it does.
Okay. Why do you think MLB and Delta Airlines are trying to force that state to rescind that law by saying it's racist? Can you come up with anything in your head?
Maybe that's just the only thing they could think of.
I like that answer.
Maybe because they think that people shouldn't be ID for that.
Is voter ID racist?
I think voter ID really goes to who it is that's considered a citizen in the United States. You know, you can't vote if you're not a citizen of the United States. So at that point, if you're not getting your citizenship, then you shouldn't be able to vote. But other than that, vote for whoever it is that you believe is your candidate.
I feel like I'm gonna go off what Big Bro said. I'm gonna go off what Big Bro said. If you don't have an ID in the United States, then you should not vote. It's not right, it's not legal, and it's not accepted. But no, it's not racist. I'm mixed, black and white. It's not racist. But if you do have an ID, vote for whoever the hell you want. And let me tell you right now, Biden sucks. And I'm a black guy saying that. Trump 2020. Can I get a whole yeah?
Oh yeah!
Oh yeah! That's all I'm gonna leave it at. If you don't have an ID to vote in the U.S., don't do it. Okay, don't try it.
Okay, Georgia. We're going back to Georgia.
All right.
Is voter ID racist? Is that a no? Georgia, they just passed a bill to require voter ID to cast a vote in an American election. MLB, Delta, Coke, they're protesting it. They're pulling business out of Georgia because they said requiring an ID to vote is racist. Is it racist?
It's a lot of things in the world that's racist. That's not considered one. And I would know that for a fact.
All right.
So,
okay,
yeah.
I like that answer. There's a lot of things. Requiring a voter ID is probably not one of them. Do you think it's racist?
Not really.
So it's to require voter ID to vote. So if you're going to go in and cast a vote in an American election, you have to prove you are who you say you are, then you can vote.
Yeah, so you know exactly why. Well, you might not know, but the reason that they don't want to require voter ID, your basic ID, your driver's license, when it's time to vote, it's really not because they consider it a racist thing. You see, here the Democrats go again, trying to figure out how they're going to cheat once again during the next elections. So what they're doing is they're playing the race card here, like they always do. So they want to make it possible for all these people coming from Central American, all these people that Biden is promising free hotel stays and free stuff if they come over here to the U.S. and immigrate, even if it's illegal. They're going to allow these people to vote in the next elections. And this is basically why they really don't want people to have the voter ID or some form of legitimate identification throughout the elections, because they want to cheat. So what they're doing now is that they're trying to claim that requiring an ID is somehow racist. And it's the dumbest argument, really. And just the fact that they believe that Black people are too stupid to go and get an ID at the DMV or are poor and can't afford to get themselves a valid driver's license or form of identification. That just tells you that that way of thinking would indicate that they're being racist. They're deeming Black people to not have the intelligence enough to go get a voter ID or a driver's license to vote. That's their view of Black people. That's what they're saying. And that's the excuse that they are giving to allow for people to vote without having to present any form of legitimate identification. They are prepping this for the next fraud that they want to commit in 2024. That's what this is all about. This is not about racism.
If you want to vote, you should have a voter ID. I'm not sure what else.
I mean, I know why they say it is.
Why is it?
They say that black people can't access the DMV and they can't get to the place to get in, aren't smart enough to get on a computer.
Well, that's their fault. Why do we ask them? Like, they could better themselves.
If the Democrats truly cared, then they would have lower bus fares for they can go to the DMV.
Let's ask them. Here, ask them.
We're discussing is voter ID racist?
Mm-hmm.
Is requiring an ID, a form of ID, to vote in an election in America, is it racist?
To get an ID, you should already have an ID, right?
Well, Delta is mad at Georgia. MLB is pulling their games out of Georgia, the state of Georgia, because they just passed a law to require voter ID, and people are saying it's racist.
How are they going to mail you your voter's registration and your voter ticket if they don't have an ID?
They said there shouldn't be an ID requirement.
Because, I mean, they mailed me my stuff, and I voted.
Were you able to get an ID?
Yeah. I have a Georgia license.
Okay. So you're from Georgia?
No, I'm from Florida.
Okay.
But I have a Georgia license.
Okay.
I live in Georgia now.
All right.
And I voted. They ain't seen me nothing with no problem. So it's not racist. Just to let y'all know.
All right. Thank you. Georgia, I'm going to keep it sweet and simple, and I'm just going to get straight to the point. They passed a bill requiring ID to cast a vote. People are saying that's racist. Is it racist to require an ID to cast a vote in an election?
No, you need your ID for everything nowadays. Why would it be considered racist when we all have to carry one?
I don't believe so neither.
No?
For the same reasons, like you need some type of form of identification, and I think you would need some type of form of identification to vote. Why wouldn't you?
And what if somebody said that they voted once or they vote was counted twice? And
how do you know who's voting and who's not if you don't? So no, I definitely don't believe it.
So not only is it not racist, but you think it should be required?
Absolutely. I think it's fine. I don't think no harm's in it.
Yeah, me neither. Just MLB, Delta Airlines, and Coca-Cola are all protesting, trying to threaten.
They protest everything nowadays. Oh, the sand is too windy out here. Let's protest Tampa. No.
No kidding. Yeah. So why are they using the race card to try and not have election security, do you think?
To be honest,
That's all I ask.
I think that is the new norm to say racist against it, and it is kind of offensive because the ones who are using it is counteracting what it really is. That's not racism, but because Black people endure it so much, now it's almost like they're trying to use reverse racism for everything. Everything is racism now.
Is it insulting that we're pulling issues away of actual racism and applying? It almost seems as though if everything's racist, then nothing can be racist.
Exactly. It is very offensive that everything is used as racism, but what really is racism? What's really racism? Oh, it's not racism. But what's not racism? Oh, it's racism. So it's using it to their benefit, and it's very offensive.
Yeah. I mean, I'm as white as they get, but I agree with you with that. I agree with it.
Facts is facts. No matter the race, no matter the culture, no matter religion, facts are facts. Can't change that.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Nope.
Georgia passed a bill recently that requires voter ID. Have you heard about that?
A little bit.
A little bit. Have you heard about the companies that are just not having it? They do not like that at all.
I had.
So MLB, Coke, Delta Airlines, these are all examples. They are pulling business out of Georgia because they said requiring an ID to vote is racist. Do you think it's racist to require proof of who you are to vote?
I don't. No.
Why not?
You need to verify who people are. So you need verification about who people are.
So not only do you believe that it's not racist, but we should have it.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. You're not white, right?
No.
Okay, you're not white. But you follow me and you said you love me.
Yes, I do.
I'm just putting that out there for everybody who wants to do whatever they want with that information. So, all right. Is voter ID racist?
No.
Georgia, you know Georgia. Mm-hmm. Great state of Georgia, as President Trump calls it, former President Trump. They are saying it's racist. The companies in Georgia, Delta Airlines, Coke, MLB, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you were requiring an ID for people to vote. That's racist. As someone who isn't, is it racist?
No, I feel like people should be having a voter ID because you have to know who you are. Like, if you're going to vote, how do we know that you're not a citizen from another country?
Point right there. How do you know that the person who's voting is not a citizen from another country who came in here illegally, somebody who was bribed by the Biden administration into casting a vote for him? So it shouldn't be illegal for people to vote without a proper ID. I think that's crazy. Let me go over the comments. Iggy Alexander, there's no Biden got 80 million votes. Of course not. He didn't get more votes than Obama did. That's crazy. In fact, I think more and more people have been walking away from the Democrat Party, realizing what it really is about and what the socialist stuff is about. A lot of people are starting to wake up and walk away from it. And I hope that people, just open their eyes and see what's really going on here. Because if you stay stupid, you're just going to end up losing all your rights. You're going to wake up tomorrow with nothing, being a slave to a socialist government. And I don't think you want that.
Say in America if you're from another country.
Very good point. Is that not the dumbest question you've ever been answered or asked? Mm-hmm. What do you think? Is it racist?
I mean, it can be, but it all depends on how you really look at it. Racism could be something to somebody else. Like, it could be based on your skin color. It could be based on what you do versus your culture. But I don't think it is. I mean, there's other places that require IDs for certain things. I mean, so I don't think it is, but that's just me.
Have you heard about the companies that are mad about it?
Only thing I've seen about it so far is the All-Star game.
Of course you did.
Right.
Sports guy over here. What do you think about that? Do you think they should leave? Because they're saying that voter ID is racist. That's why MLB pulled their All-Star game.
Right.
Do you agree with them? Is that a good decision to do?
I have no comment.
No comment.
Just because I haven't really.
Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and I am going to end this live stream. I don't know if I'll leave it up or if I'll do another video about this tomorrow, pre-recorded one. So have a good night.